I was gonna say she dug three graves before we saw a third person. Act 4, a familiar path.
He's in the infirmary.
How is he? Calden.
There's barely anything left of his body. I almost salted trying to fix him, but he'll live. Vasco says it's the reason he survived. According to him, his soul was in stasis. Seems like it's more powerful than we thought.
Are the preparations complete?
The entire building has cages all around. If my brother was right, then this will certainly stop the lady from seeing through.
And the armies?
The Luca, Sorelle, and Dieci are all here. The Cacciatori are trickling in. The Labores ranks aren't so full to comprise an army, but they're all here as well. Listen, Cicero.
What about the streets? Have they been...
Cicero.
We have a job to do, Calden.
We've been through this before. We can...
No, we haven't. We haven't been through anything even close to what's happening, Calden. The crown's waiting for me.
There's some big updates there. So the stone put the kid in a stasis where, what? He's basically immortal in the time that it's like that? Is that how that works? Because Calden said there was basically nothing left of his body. Razatov's journal. 59th year of the 8th canticle. 45th. Ruvita. I am keeping this record because this is the only way to prove that I retain my sanity. Yes. Write down your thoughts. Validate your mind. Laurentia would be proud indeed. Yes. Yesterday. While I was in the Conoscenza, I saw something. I swear by it. I swear. A shadow. A figure. A being. Something. I don't know. It's been bothering me ever since, and I feel like it's haunting my poor mind. Better to put it down on paper and let it haunt that instead, I say. Second, Pika. Ages I saw it again. Today, I was scouring the Conoscenza for information on the Trevor. I could feel it then. Watching me. Just watching. I returned to my room and tried to shake off the feeling, but then I looked in the mirror and there was, in the mirror, it was a heart-stopping shock, if there ever was one. After I finally managed to calm my wits, I tried to touch it, but it vanished. I think it's absolutely ridiculous writing this down, but I don't think it's out to hurt me. I don't want to test that. No, I do not indeed. Fifth, Pika. I don't know. Ages, I don't know. I think it's going... I can't believe this. I spoke to it. In Dimenticata. In the Cleaver. It told me that it's Fae, that it's Dimenticate, that there was a civil war. I don't know. Also, he seems to be writing the way somebody would speak, which is weird because it's all written down. Sixth, Pika. Write down your thoughts, validate your mind. Laurentia would not be happy with how this has turned out. No, she would not. I have admitted it. I am insane. There's no doubt about it. No doubt indeed. I have seen the creature, Fae. It is real. It is real and I am insane. The only consolation in this mess is that I have a lead. Yes. It visits me every night to tell me things. About Mascherines. About Fae. About Dimenticate and civil wars. It's a lot to take in, and I wish it would just sit with me and tell me everything, but it seems to tire easily. It will not yet tell me where it returns when it needs to rest, though. Hopefully, it will be more forthcoming in the following days. Hopefully. Fifth, Pika. Or probably Pika. Finally, it is done with its tale. Civil wars, traitorous zealots, hidden artifacts. Ages, I'm still reeling from it all, but it tells me that there's little time. Apparently, it is not the only of its kind. There are others out there, searching. I must be careful indeed. 14th, Pika, or Pika. Of course there was a reason. He took me to the throne today, showed me one of the artifacts. I couldn't believe that's what it looked like. So small, so innocent, yet so powerful. He said that he made contact with me because he needed someone to look after the artifacts, to ensure that the Mara didn't get their hands on it. I was already halfway to discovering them, and he thought I'd make a good steward. I told him otherwise. Told him that he's got it completely wrong, thinking that I'd be a good steward. I'm not courageous like Tristan, or a fighter like my brother. I can barely even defend myself against simple Bolgia. But much less whoever or whatever else is out there looking for secrets. I even offered to fight him, just to prove my point, but he was adamant that I bear the burden, and that I do so alone. I had hoped that he'd been a bit more truthful earlier, but given the fact that he's growing weaker, I suppose it's forgivable. I have accepted his request, and he's begun to tell me how to keep the artifacts from the Pale One, but he could tell I was distracted. Of course I was distracted. What did he think I'd be after all this? Calm? He said we'll talk about it again some other day. On another note, I started composing something for Cal. I don't want to think about it, but if something happens... No bad thoughts. 18th, Pika, damn it. He's taught me how to create Fae. He tells me he won't be able to shade the knife for much longer. I'm trying to get someone I can trust to replace Valise. She is a great custodian, but I'd rather be safe. Yes. Administrative things like this are difficult, especially when she was recommended her position by Lucia. Well, whatever it is, the heart seems safe enough in Tesoro for now. He likes to remind me that it's the knife I need to worry about, but... is concerning a little bit. Also, the custodian was recommended by Lucia, which is obviously bad. 24th, Pika. This is it. I've got all the equipment to create Fae all set up. Yes, he's finally told me what all his intentions are, and I think it's a fine plan. Laurentia said writing things down helps you remember, so... The Pale One is quite a bit like him. Form shifters of the Fae. It's easy for them to look for things. Just turn ethereal, and the world is basically theirs. Fortunately, they can't see or move into spaces occupied by their Fae. He said it had something to do with the energies and all that, but I didn't inquire further. No, he told me to create Fae so that I could keep the knife hidden. It's too dangerous here, what with him fading and all. So create Fae, keep the knife close to the Fae, and it'll be safe. That's it. Sounds like a solid plan. Yes. So that's what we found. We found the knife, I think, as a weird mystery stone that was stashed next to a whole bunch of bottles that were filled with a paper Fae that couldn't escape. That was the trap. That was how he was keeping the knife hidden. It's hard to believe something so small and innocent could be the key to destroying something so eternal and powerful. I look at the knife, and all I can think of is how I wouldn't know what it was, even if I tripped on it. On another note, I finished the song for Cal, sang it myself even. I don't think I'm the best singer, but I think he'll appreciate it better. Cal's always been so sentimental. Pity father and mother never saw it that way. I'm writing a lot. A long entry this one is. Like I don't want the day to end. I don't know. First I sing my own song for Cal, then I pack everything away, and now I can't stop writing. He tells me not to worry, but I don't know. I can't shake the feeling that something's going to... I'll write again. After I set the Fae up. Keep the knife hidden. I'll write another entry, yes, and then we'll talk about protecting the heart and seed. In the meantime, I'll leave this here. There's more to write indeed, but no buts. There's more to write indeed, and I'll write about it tomorrow. Yes, I'll write about it tomorrow. But he didn't. He created a big old pool of blood in the middle of the room as he summoned a large series of paper Fae, and he hid them next to... He used them to hide the knife, but then we found it, and kind of ruined everything. We couldn't even do that part right, could we? The Maribus family, there's... What's left over here? Oh. Because Damien's still alive, so there's one last entry waiting for him. Livia 3. There are those that would tell me to be happy for her because she perished surrounded by those that she loved. But that makes no sense. It is as if they are telling me to ignore the fact that she is gone. To pretend like her death hurts me none, and that is blatantly untrue. Though it may be that I was closer to Levanthos than I was to Livia, the loss is no less savage, the pain no less real. And there is nothing that I can do about this now. I had always thought to myself that I would spend more time with Livia when I had the chance, that I would get to know her better when I found pockets of time in my schedule, but I never did. And now I never will. Levanthos 5. Some losses cannot be scribed. Some pains cannot be chronicled. It is not for lack of will, but simply because by their nature and their freshness the feat is impossible. Perhaps one day I'll be able to speak of this with candor. Perhaps that day will never come. Whatever the case may be, for now, I cannot write of this anymore. I simply cannot, and I am sorry. I am sorry that I haven't the strength to preserve his legacy in words here. I am sorry that I am failing him, even now, in his death, as I failed him in life. I am sorry that I cannot give to him what he gave to me. It frustrates me, and it saddens me, and I am sorry that this is all I can give. Goodbye, Ven. He basically has no one left, except for people that he's met over the course of this investigation. Like, this is almost reaching comical levels of loss, where every single person that ever mattered to him, and ever saved him, or was ever kind to him, is all dying one by one, all the way from his brother, to his mentor character, to his friend, to everyone. To the person that helped him through school, even. Zor. The latest country to establish trade with Omber is the nation of Zor. It is a small nation, and an incredibly private one. The pale people from Zor have refused, time and time again, to allow Ombrians into their lands. Little is known about the culture of Zor, save the fact that they are incredibly attuned to the natural world. The sun and moon are supposed to be objects of their worship, and priests that are known to their people as land listeners. Ports visited by Zoric tradesmen are often filled with glass containers of strange flora. Some have even sworn that the plants that the Zoric deal in have minds of their own. Due to the recentness of these goods, however, some rumors are regarded as baseless. This is a weird time to be giving me these lore dumps. I feel like by the time this big emotional stuff happens, this kind of stuff should be done by now. Rune. This is weirdly late. Surely they could have introduced Rune earlier, like, you know, when we were dealing with the many runic characters in this game. They're like the most prominent minority group we've encountered. Across the Midnight Belt lies the country of Rune, arguably the source of much of Omber's cultural flourishing. The runic society is obsessed with arts in their various forms, and until Omber's flourishing, it was regarded as a culture capital of the Midnight Belt. There is no resentment harbored by the runic people towards Omber, however. They are, instead, happy that Omber is doing so fantastically. After all, that just means that they have another country to establish profitable trade routes with. Vegelus and Messenza. Messenza is a difficult Medea to describe. Not only is it the most recently discovered Medea, and therefore has less amount of research dedicated to understanding it, its effects are also more subtle and difficult to explain than those of other Medea. The Vegelus describe Messenza as the art of thought. Education is the pathway to accessing the benefits of Messenza, as evinced by the Vegelus. The librarians and historians of the registry aren't often trained in any other Medea, yet they still wield the elements with a strange amount of strength. Certainly, they aren't able to shape the elements the way Sicarios can, or manipulate them afar as one would do with the Eteria. But there is a strange difference in their branding that, though silent, is undeniable. The fire they brand burns hotter, the earth they brand tends to be sturdier, the ice colder, the wind stronger. The effects aren't always incredibly marked, and there is still much debate surrounding Messenza, but in the world of academia, its existence has been affirmed. One more magic entry and 8 more locations to go. Even locations, which was the furthest from completion, is getting up there. 2 culture, 4 factions, 8 locations, 1 magic. 1 for each party member. No. Oh, I didn't scroll up. Yeah, we're down to 1 for each party member. 3 members of registry, apparently. It's a surprising gulf. But then everything else is pretty close, too. 3 mask runners. Well, we're probably going to be taking down the last dregs of the mask runners soon, so that'll be plenty of time for them to bring that kind of stuff up. This place is really open. You kind of have to run all over the place if you want to try to cover these kinds of details. I kind of wish that the little random people chitter-chattering around were voice acted, just because their dialogue would be kind of nice to just hear in the background, like in Dishonored. The lady, 4. Aegis, let Resitop be right. Please. In his notes, he's written that the presence of any other Fae will disrupt the lady's supernatural senses. It is the only hope we have in eluding her gaze. Well, the good news is this place has Fae in it as far as we can tell, and if nothing else, we've summoned a Fae locally, and that might be one of our best chances. Oh, he's bedridden too. I didn't realize that. I know he was carried out limping, but I didn't realize he was going to be bedridden. Also, his clothes are not designed for him to be bedridden, because they stick out so much compared to the rest of his body. This actually shows... Yeah, his existence here actually breaks the illusion, because I'm dwelling on something people don't like to hear me dwell on sometimes, but this entire background here is one 2-dimensional image. It's drawn with perspective to make you think you're walking around in a 3D space, but the only 3D things are this guy, and that kid actually is 2D also. That glyph that's glowing is 3D. This guy is 3D, and he's laying on top of it. He's projected over a 2D surface, and he's a 3D guy. So it leads to a possibility where his body is laying down flat, but his clothes freakishly swoop out around his body, which breaks the perspective, because somehow they're below him, but he's above it, but he's laying flat, but that means he's actually floating in the air above it, because the clothes aren't clipping through the 3D bed, because the bed's in 2D. It's one of those weird. It's a weird decision to let that character sit there with his coat, because it breaks the illusion pretty bad. I'm sure no one else looks. Meanwhile, this guy, to give the illusion that he's under the covers, he's a 2-dimensional drawing, just like everything else.
I'm so sorry.
I doubt he can hear you. Look at me. If you've ever needed a reason to gloat...
I have nothing to say to you.
I do. Will you do a shamed man a favor? I'd like not for my life to end with me shouting across a room.
The crown is waiting for me.
They can spare a short moment.
What do you want?
I have done foul things in my life to get my title, my rank. I have sacrificed so much. Of things that were mine to sacrifice, and also of things that were not. But I did it all for a reason, Cicero. Always in the interests of the city. I need you to understand that. Now I am fading. I might have survived the ordeal at the registry, but I am old. Even healing hands cannot reverse the toll of time.
Say what you must.
The registry is lost. The White Spire has fallen. Everything that I worked so hard to build up, gone. Just like that. And in its wake, all I can hear is a question. Was I wrong? Through all the years you've known me, watched me give up everything that I had for the city. Family, lovers, friends. I need to know. Was it all worth it? Please, Cicero, grant a dying man his wish.
Goodbye, Hephaestus.
Just not a lot holding people together anymore. Hephaestus Eliarm. I have witnessed the fall of a king, the man who epitomized, personified even, practicality, has had his throne crumble beneath him, and I cannot say the sight is anything other than pathetic. Long have I wondered how much the man paid for his glory, little of which I have seen since returning, and now the wounds have risen to the surface. For a time, I'd thought that he hadn't cared about all that he'd lost, that he had no qualms being the savage leader that he needed to be. I suppose that was a foolish thought. He may live in a city of magic, but that does not make us any less human. Loss still hurts, no matter how pristine your throne. There had been a time when he could have built his life upon things that would last, the warmth of a cultivated love, or the comfort of a family, but he gave up all those things for his seat. And now that that is gone, it serves as a reminder for me to build what I can, when I can. Things that are more resilient than power or fortune. I miss my parents. Perhaps I will see them when this is over. Damien, Maribus 3. Damien still lives. Despite the flames that took his parents, he lives. For now, that is enough. There is mourning to be done about the destruction of his body, but that will be taken care of later. For now, he's alive and that is enough. It must be. How destroyed is his body? Does he not have limbs anymore? Is he just like a torso and a head, and all that's all burned up, all Deadpool style and torn asunder? Like, I don't know what's left of him at this point. Altamire. The fatherland of the people who founded Ombre, Altamire is governed by a fanatical theocracy and owns vast portions of the lands of Tenebre. Tenebre? The religion of Aurea dominates the culture of Altamire, and the Altamirians take blasphemy incredibly seriously, routinely executing heretics. The passageway that cut through the mountains that separate Ombre from its fatherland was destroyed in the March of Broken Songs, and contact with Altamire has been drastically reduced since. Weirdly, there's no new information there. One of the canticles already covered that exact information at relatively great lengths, without there being any need to rehash it. So are there going to be new entries along the hallway? Yep, there are. The Echoing Plains. Stretching for miles and miles in all directions around the city is a vast open wilderness known as the Echoing Plains. There is a strange emptiness to it. The horizon runs flat and unbroken by any geographical variation, and the stillness to the air is almost unnerving. Bird song is rare, and even the occasional cricket chirp would be a welcome change from the silence. Breaking the quiet with words often isn't any more comforting. Voices seem to travel far and long in the plains, as though carried by some unseen wind that circles round and brings the words back. There is a reason why these wildernesses have been called the Echoing Plains. I thought we were supposed to have brought song into these lands, Pasha said, as he plucked a flower from the ground. Why in the ages is it still so damned quiet? Is that a serious question? Riva said as she brushed her fingers over a patch of grass. Cicero, have you found anything? I shook my head. Not yet. But I'm sure it's somewhere here. I can smell it. Well, why shouldn't it be a serious question? Pasha scoffed. My dear, you don't really believe we brought song into the world, do you? What do you think happened? We walked past Mirare, and then the plants began to suddenly sing. Isn't that what the story of the Silent Ages says? Of course it's what it says, my dear, Riva replied, taking a few steps forward and feeling the ground with her fingers. But that isn't actually what happened, is it? Come on, Pasha. Where's all that wit of yours gone? I'm a talker, not a thinker, Pasha replied, tossing the flower to the ground and absent-mindedly taking a few steps forward. His eyes weren't even on the grass before us. Pasha's mind worked around people, and the care with which he paid attention to the material world around him was little. He was a better diplomat than he was an investigator. Cicero, can you explain what this woman's going on about? I'd rather ask you than risk having my pride taken even more of a beating. Only because I love you, my dear, Reva said, as she inspected another patch of grass. I will if you start looking for the salt, I replied. As I brushed a patch of grass with my fingers, we were in search of brittle grass that would indicate the presence of dissolved stone salt. The salt breathers of the city had a method of storing the salt in the plains, dissolving it in water and pouring it over a patch of earth. The water would seep into the earth, and the soil would filter out the salt into small crystals. And when the time was right, earth and water brands would return to rinse the soil and regather the salt. Thankfully, wild grass covered every inch of the echoing plains, and the presence of stone salt in their soil made them brittle. We'd spent the last week tracing the activities of salt breathers, and determined that they were storing their largest reserve of the drug somewhere in this part of the plains. All we had to do was find it. Fine, Pasha grunted, as he bent down and felt the ground with his hands. The Silent Ages were simply a concept, I began, created by the first to solidify the identity of the early Ombrians, a tool to establish the difference between them and the Altamirians. There weren't actually any changes to the world when we started chronicling time in canticles. So it's all a lie then? Pasha said. And the songs we sing about the land don't matter to the plants and animals and waters and soil? Well, if you put it that way, I suppose so, yes. A breeze circled around us, frigid in its embrace, and the hairs on my neck stood with violent sharpness. Ages, do you feel that? Reva said as she jumped to her feet and her masquerine on her face, blades of earth already floating around her wrists. We shared our instincts, and both looked around for air and water brands, muscles suddenly tense. But there was nothing, just the empty vastness of the echoing plains. And then there was a laugh. Not funny, Pasha, Reva said as she took her masquerine. I didn't do anything. Pasha shrugged. I wasn't wearing my masquerine. Reva looked at me unnerved. Let's just find the damn salt and leave. Maybe more than just a concept, huh? Pasha smiled before returning back to the grass. More, feed me more lore. Oh, last magic. The 8th Medea. Isn't this the one we don't know about yet, basically? Over the years, as various Medea have shown themselves to be studied by the Vegelus, a noticeable trend has been observed. The Medea always come in pairs, each of which had something binding its elements together. The Physica focuses on physical form, the Etera focuses on music, the Visiva focuses on aesthetic enhancements made to pieces of equipment, and then the Vegelus discovered the Messenza. They have done enough tests to ascertain the presence of Messenza, but what puzzles them currently is its counterpart. The Vegelus have been searching for a while in their attempt to discover this unknown Medea, but their efforts have yet yielded no fruit. Some are skeptical about the presence of the eighth Medea. Others are certain it exists, and they simply have yet to chance upon it. Whatever the case may be, this discussion concerns but a fraction of the city's population, as the vast majority of Ombre focuses on practicing the Medea that have already been discovered. The way they handle Medea actually reminds me of the elements on the periodic table. They're organized in a pattern, and they use that pattern to predict other elements. And because of the predictions, they've either been able to know about elements before they discover them, or even create elements in a lab that actually can exist, based on predictions of how the patterns work. And so, similarly, based on that prediction, they think they know about this 8th Medea that must be somewhere that they just can't find. The problem I have with that is just the fact that they only have 3 previous cases to support their idea. So it's not exactly a massive, obvious pattern that's been super observable. It's happened 3 times, and then the 4th case doesn't match the previous 3. That doesn't necessarily mean that they all have to follow a pattern then. At that point, it might just be a coincidence. But it's written for a purpose, and I would not be surprised if the 8th Medea somehow is related to these things we're using here, these relics, and maybe even elements of the ending. We'll see. Anything down here? Nope. Onward.